What is up, YouTube? This is Andrew Rose, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I mean, I say that every time. I say every time we're going to do something different, but it's always true, and it's true this time as well. So no hate. We're going to be jumping on the bandwagon, mostly because I came super late to the party and just discovered this format of video, but I really enjoy it. I think you guys probably will enjoy it too, because a lot of people do. But it's these making tier list type of ones. I got really into the one Tier Zoo because I'm a bit of a nerd, so I kind of liked going through and showing all these animals and how you would tier list them as if it's like a video game or whatever. And I thought, why don't I do that for the label Confessions? And the reason why is because this is obviously my favorite label. If you like all the rest of my content and the whatnots, this is what a lot of it is kind of about. So I thought it made sense. Thought it would be relevant. Now, one thing I just want to say is that obviously this is like super subjective, obviously. Just let me fix around. There we go. Obviously this is super subjective. It's just my preference. In fact, I didn't want to hate on anyone in this video, so I cut it down to just be as low as C tier. Which if you happen to be one of these artists and you see me put you in C tier, it's not an insult at all. It's like, I'll give the reasons why I put people there when I do, but I wanted to only include the artists that I had like things good to say about. It doesn't even mean that I necessarily like the ones that I don't include. It just means that these were the guys where they inspired me. They had something that I really liked, or I was really excited for the potential that they had in the future, was usually why they were in the lower tiers. But without further ado, I think I'll just start getting right into it. Okay, the kid is back. Pass the crown. And I think the first couple are going to be no surprise. So I mean, we are talking Confessions here, so gotta go the God S tier with our boys Shami. And where is he? There he is, Mala. I mean, this is obvious. I'm obviously a huge fanboy of these two, and most people are who are into Confessions. So the Shami obviously founded the label. He's a legend. Mala, my personal favorite. I don't know how to. My favorite producer maybe of all time. I don't know. My favorite brand. That's kind of a dumb thing to say, but I think Shami is probably my favorite producer, but Mala's my favorite overall package. I just think it's so cool what he did with everything. Now, I'm going to have two more S tiers, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this, but the first I'm going to put up there is Brohug. Now, Brohug have put out a lot of really good music. I would say they didn't firmly get into S tier. They would have stayed at A tier until I saw them in Toronto. I mean, their performance was just so nuts that to me, I was like, okay, not only do they make good music, but they throw down to the point where it was one of the most memorable shows I've ever been to. Shami and Mala obviously do that, but other guys, they don't really stick around with you. So, I'll point out some of those later, but I thought Brohug just amazed me. They put out only good music, so they're taking my S tier. In the last one, if I can find him, is going to be, here he is, Dombresky. I think, ever since Utopia, he's just been putting out work, and while not all of it has been on Confession, a lot of it has been on his Techno Records thing, and he's kind of gotten more techie over time. He's just one of my favorite artists overall. I think he's just incredible. Utopia just opened the floodgates for G House for having long sustained basses instead of all just the plucks Mala kind of pioneered. So he's dope, and he throws down. He's awesome. Okay, now we're getting into the A tier, so things will be I think, no, that's not what I wanted. Things will be a little bit more packed over here, and this is when it's going to start getting contentious, I think, between A and B. This is where I personally had the hardest time, but first up we're going to put Dusty Cloud. Now, if you listen to especially my early G House mixes, from 2017, I threw in a lot of Dusty Cloud. They just put out, banger after banger, G House, straight, true and true. The only knock I could ever have on Dusty Cloud, now, one is that I haven't seen them live, so maybe that would change my opinion. And two It's just that I don't think they've like super evolved over time. Maybe I'm just haven't been keeping my eye on the ball for them. But I feel like they didn't evolve as much as say Mala did, right? Where he didn't just stay in like the Notorious style, but he went on to make different kinds. Okay, next up, one of my personal favorites. I think they're super underrated. Loj 21. Sorry about the logos here. I don't know how that happened, but Loj 21. Ever since I heard their EP on Confessions, I just thought, wow, these guys are nuts. Like some of the coolest production I've ever heard. Bringing in trap drums into G House, and just their synth sound design is crazy. They influenced my song "It's on Me" with Psy. Huge respect for them. They're awesome. Can't wait to see them live too. Next up, we got Dylan Nathaniel. He's similar to Dusty Cloud in this respect, where I think like he just puts out good music consistently. Again, I haven't seen him live either, but I have no complaints. Consistently high quality, lots of music on the label. So I just can't help but put him anywhere else. Both of them have put out more than Loj on the label, and just the consistency tells me really good things about them. Next up is probably one of my personal favorites, going to be Wax Motif. He, I think, is like has some of the coolest, highest energy sound design and productions. I have seen Wax live, and that was the only knock I'd have, is like it wasn't a show that really stuck in my mind. But other than that, I think he's one of my favorite producers on this list. Coolest vocals too. I love the vocals in his tracks. Next is who I think is one of the most underrated artists, and it's going to be this guy, Ibranovsky. I think Ibranovsky is amazing. He's kind of like Joyride, but he's like the sleeper Joyride that people don't know about, like I think his productions are just so nuts, so high energy, like just so much fun. I also haven't seen him. All this A tier, man, I haven't seen, but Ibranovsky he's always been one of my favorites. Like he's just crazy. I think his song "The Plug" is like one of my favorite ones. Yeah, I love his production so much. And then rounding out the A tier, another one of my favorites is going to be Noizu. I gotta put Noizu. Sorry, Dusty Cloud over here. Couldn't get the cursive font Noizu logo. Couldn't find that anywhere. Noizu is just, man, not only are his productions insane, and the only thing I had to knock him on to not put him in S tier was that he doesn't have a ton of releases on Confessions. Obviously he actually is it his label that's Techna, or is it Dombresky's? I can't remember. I think it's his, right? Anyway, so he's put out a ton of music since his EP on Confessions that has just been insane, just nuts. And I recently just saw him at Shambhala, as you learned about in the last video, and his set was just incredible. Like one of the best, I think the best set for me personally of the entire festival. So for that reason, I have to put him in A tier. Like his productions are nuts. Even though he didn't put out much other than that EP on Confession, that EP is crazy. Jungle, Girls, they're just nuts songs. So he's firmly got to be in A tier. Next up, we have the B tier. And first up, we're going to put a guy who I think if you asked me in 2017, I would have put him in A tier, but it's Sonny Banks. Now, I think he just made a return after a while of being kind of MIA. His song's Molly Breath. Is it Bad Girls? Good Girls. Good Girls, that's what it's called. Good Girls and Spice, I want to say. Those songs are all incredibly good. Like, some of my favorite songs ever in house music and EDM generally, dance music generally. But his new song, when he came back, I felt like was kind of weak. I didn't think it lived up to the standard of what he was producing before. I also haven't seen him live. I don't think he even plays live very much. I don't know if he's ever come to Canada, let alone Vancouver. So, I mean, I gotta give him B tier at least because of how good his old stuff was, and I really hope that he can. Maybe it was just I didn't get the new release. It didn't click with me, and he makes more good stuff in the future. Now the next one's going to be a little controversial. This is going to be Mercer, and I know, don't get me wrong, I love Mercer. Twisted is one of my favorite songs, actually. And I think the reason I'm going to put him so low is because I don't think he's a good confession artist. I think he's a great, disco house artist. I really like his productions. On Made in France, he's awesome too. I just don't think he fits the label. And I know he was making progressive, more aggressive stuff before, but like even that stuff I don't think fits confession. So he's a good artist. He's a good DJ too. I saw him live as well, and that was a lot of fun. I just don't think he's like a confession guy. Like when you look at these other names like Mala Brohug, Dusty Cloud, Wax Motif, it's like Mercer sticks out like a sore thumb. So I think he's an awesome artist. I just don't think he's like a confession artist, if that makes sense. Next up, we have a little cat here, Lucati. I have no idea if this is the right logo for him. This is just what I found when I was Googling. Lucati, I like this guy a lot. He's going to be in this kind of cohort of people in the B tier who I actually really think they're dope. I think they're awesome. I personally feel like they need some more releases. They do a lot of remixes that are really sick. Like in Lucati's case, his remix of Corrupt, I think is insane. It's good. His originals are good too. I just think like, one, I need to see him live. Two, I need to just see like, an EP drop that's just complete fire on top of all the work he's already put out. And then I'd be like 100% sold. He would graduate to A tier. He's kind of like Lodge 21 early days right now. But overall, really love the 808 kind of vibe. It's dope. I really, really like Lucati. Now, next up, we're going to put Angels. Now, this might be surprising because I think Angels has put out a lot of work. I would kind of put them in the same realm as Dusty Cloud, where like I like a lot of the stuff they do. I just don't think it's quite as consistent or quite my vibe. They do a lot of kind of breakbeat stuff that it doesn't click with me as much as the more traditional G house. So that's the only reason I put them here. But still a lot of their productions like are dope, and I look up to them a lot. So okay, next up we got Keeled in B tier, and Keeled is pretty much the exact same as Lucati, where like some of his remixes. What was the one he did for? I think it's Prophecy. That's just like, dude, that song is nuts. Like his remix of Prophecy is insane, and it's the exact same thing as Lucati. I think he just needs to put out some more work that is just top notch. Maybe I got to see him live, and that would change my mind. But solid, solid B tier. Like, he's got a lot of potential, really going places. Just got to see some more workout. That's it. And the exact same goes for the next one, Koos. Koos had one of the best remixes I think I'd ever heard of Mala's Addiction. It was that one and Jackknifes, where I was like, dude, this is nuts. Like, this is crazy good. Again, I just want to see like more and more work come out. So that's all I can say. It's no different than the other ones. Next up, I'm going to put in Nitty Gritty. Now, I say this because kind of like Mercer, Nitty Gritty has a lot of releases that are not really related to the Confession sound. The ones that he does have on Confessions, though, are nuts. They're crazy. Especially the new EP with Four on the Floor and House Music or My Music, I think it's called. Those tracks are nuts, and I play them in all my sets and all my mixes. Really incredible, unique sounds, bringing fresh elements in, probably from the trap background. So the only reason I have to put him all the way down in B tier is that he's not a Confession artist first. It's clear that he's bigger than that he's, defined by his trap music a lot more than he is by his house music. So I don't think it's fair to put him higher up in a Confessions tier list, but he is putting out really great work on the label, so I gotta give him a shout out for that. And then last would be Martin Horger. I don't know how to pronounce, if that always pronounced weird. Horger, I don't know. Yeah, I would say this is similar to Lucati, Koos, and Keel, just a lack of releases and slight lack of consistency, but other than that, really, really strong productions. Okay, last up, C tier. And again, I just want to reiterate, this doesn't mean that they're bad or anything just because it's the last tier. I took out the D tier. Obviously, you could have F tier as well for the really bad ones. You know, I'm only including people that I actually look up to, that I actually like their productions. That's the reason that they're on this list. And so first up is Belcore. Belcore, the only thing I'm worried about with them is that they fall into the same trap as Kaztec of thinking that they need to use the literal exact same lead in every single track. That's the only thing, is like it starts to get really samey, and you know, if it's a lead that that a certain audience member doesn't enjoy, then like you've lost them, you know, seeing your brand or your creativity, you know, what your mind can produce. But I do like them a lot, and from what I can tell, I haven't seen them live, but it seems like their shows throw down. So I would be really open to like changing my mind on this placement and putting them up to B tier. I just think I've got to see a couple more tracks that get a little bit more creative, and I've got to see them live. Next up is Tame, and Tame, this is really just a lack of releases thing. I mean, the releases that he has had have been dope. It's just we need more, right? And it's also kind of an old Future House style on a couple of them, which could become a little samey over time. So hopefully he can keep it fresh. But I think he can. Well, at least time is to tell. It's just too early, but I think he's got a ton of potential. I think pretty much the exact same goes for Saint Punk. Loved the first releases on Confession. Really excited to see what comes up next. Disco is one of my like favorite songs. It almost sounds like propaganda, but as a house track. And so I put it on when I'm like, do you want to hear some nuts drop? Like, just, do you want to hear a drop like no other drop you've heard? I put on Disco. Next up, we got Fetish. Again, exact same scenario where I think the releases that have happened have been really cool, and we just need more. We just need more. Bump it up to B tier. And the exact same goes for the last guy here, Masteria. Love Masteria. You know, the bad guy remix. Come On, Welcome to the Darkness. All these tracks have been really dope. He's putting out lots of good new stuff. You know, the right amount of diversity and creativity in his sound. It's just a matter of time. And I need to see him live, but he's not coming to Vancouver, man. I really hope he does, because he's got a lot of homies out here, so I would love to see Masterio make it out. Now, what I'm really curious about, though, is how does this compare to how you see it? You know, what are your placements for the Confessions roster? Where would you put people? Where do you think, you know, I was a little bit too harsh? Who do you see, you know, as I think S and the A tier are kind of the most debated, other than Shami and Mala, obviously. Some people might put Mala in A tier, I guess, but yeah, I'm really curious to hear where you guys stand. Let me know down in the comments below, but let's keep it real civil and nice. And as always, happy dancing.